G'day, Sam Marwood here from ORICOOP, and welcome to another episode of our series on looking at creating a social movement around organic farming from scratch. Today we interviewed Chris Ennis from CERES Fair Food in Melbourne. I guess you could describe it as a food hub. It's a movement in and of itself. We discuss how the demand for organic food is really increasing, and also how you can go about setting up your own food hub, your own local food hub in your community, which we think is really, really cool. There's lots sprouting up across the country. So I hope you enjoy. Jump over to the ORICOOP website as well. We'd love you to be a member and help us create our own movement of organic farming, regenerative farming across the country. And just reach out and say hi. We'd love to chat. G'day everybody, Sam Marwood here. We have another episode of our series on how to make an organic farming movement from scratch, brought to you by the Organic and Regenerative Investment Cooperative. If that's too much of a mouthful, you can just say ORICOOP today. And now we're speaking with Chris Ennis, who is from the amazing organisation, which I think and I hope most people have heard of, CERES in Melbourne. Chris is the founder and manager of CERES Fair Food, which is the online hub for food delivery and the food services for CERES in Melbourne. Chris, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Pleasure, mate. So CERES, awesome organisation. Make sure people, when you're watching this, you are Googling at the same time, and look it up, scroll through. They supply organic food to families across the town of Melbourne, and also support and give good prices to the farmers, which is what we want to hear with ORICOOP. So it's awesome. So Chris, our topic within this broader series is called Localised Food Systems and Solutions. That's what we're going to try and broadly keep this conversation to. We'll see how we go. But before we get stuck into that, mate, we've been asking all our interviewees, what is your passion and what gets you up in the morning?
Okay. I think my passion is connecting people together and bringing, pulling those new projects together that, make around food that make the world, a more fun, more healthy, more fair place to live. So that's how Fair Food came about. It was just a staff co-op that got out of hand, really, and now it's a delivery service. It was about making, looking after staff at a community organisation. Then it's just turned into a social enterprise that looks after farmers and looks after asylum seekers and looks after a whole bunch of people across Melbourne who want to get involved with, making the food system and, their community a better place.
That's so the whole idea behind Fair Food wasn't that you woke up one day saying, I want to develop an online system that has all these networks. It was purely this you want to do good, you want to help people connect to their food, and it sort of evolved. Yeah.
So we had a fresh food market that sort of served our local area, but it just came out of a side idea that was a staff co-op. And like so many things, you just try something, that little and sort of chase your passion, and it turns into something a lot bigger.
Love it. So what's your love for organic foods or regenerative ag or organic farming? Can you summarize that, a deep love within your gut?
Yeah. I think, my background, my mum's family were farmers. My dad's family were grocers, and grocers. They had a general store.
Yep.
And I realised that actually, sometimes you just have little choice what you do in your life. And I sort of found myself doing both of our family businesses and one thing. And, sometimes I just don't think you have a choice in these things. It's sort of in the blood. And I think food is a really, really great way to bring people together and to do, other work. Sometimes it's about the food, but it's not about the food. So I think that's what I really love about organic food. Is a really, it's a good way in itself to to feed people, but it's also a really good way to build community.
Well, that's interesting that you had the supply chain stitched up from an early age, from farmer to grocer, which is what the series is all about as well. So, given your experience with CERES, I'd love your reflections quickly on this concept of how to create a social movement around organic farming. Are there any pointers we need to be focused on as ORICOOP to really be part of this movement?
Yeah, so I think about this stuff all the time because we've got we chase this path in our own enterprise at Fair Food around convenience and competing against sort of traditional food delivery systems, and but the more I do it and the more I see other projects and things that are going on, the more I think actually we shouldn't be competing with the kind of Amazon Fresh model or the Woolworths or Coles delivery model, where it's all about absolute convenience and the driving to get your food to you within half an hour or an hour, at absolute convenience. So it's sort of almost something you don't have to think about. And we've flipped to start thinking, actually, we want to make it something that you're involved in. You actually have to do a little bit of work to do, and you can choose to be more involved in the way that you buy your food. So we're pushing towards more like getting people together to buy in bulk together and just making that really easy. So there's less packaging, but there's an opportunity to come together with a whole bunch of people to say, let's buy a bag of rice, let's buy a 20-litre drum of olive oil. We'll all bring our own containers together and we'll split it up. And at that point, we can make the actual transaction really simple. The joy is coming together and, being with a group of people and having control with, the packaging of your food, where it comes from, and then doing something together with it. So we're really looking at using food as a way of building community, because we see the sort of single person living, the apartment living, the social isolation that's happening in our cities, and more people sort of telecommuting and lots of opportunities not to be face to face with people, that to actually go, oh, actually, let's do a thing where once a month you get together with a bunch of people from your neighbourhood and you split food up together in a really packaging free, social, and also there's an economic reward there for it as well.
Okay, so summarising that in around physically bringing people together is going to be the point of difference, especially in our society where, as you say, we're more and more isolated. That could be the point of difference for this social movement. Love it. Love that perspective. I really think people yearn for connection. Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you can do it in a way that's not like onerous, that has benefit, that's not something extra I have to do, but adds to the quality of your life and the way that you interact with the planet, we think that's the way to go.
Brilliant.
And kind of, it sort of fits in with the whole series ethos about, with that stuff, we'd like people to be able to, we're all about equipping people with skills to make their life with food more independent. So we teach people how to keep bees and ferment and cook in different ways and gather weeds and all kinds of skills that are really about, connecting you with the earth much more. So it's sort of like, there's a transitional skills to a less sort of, what we've got with an industrial food system now. They're really about getting people, clued in, ready, and enabled to build, sort of really independent sort of food, their own food sheds. So that, if tomorrow if the internet dropped out, if the shit hit the fan, you know, there will be people and groups of people who knew each other, who had skills, and who could really go, okay, yeah, life's not going to be too bad if we can do these things. If we know these things, we know how to we know how to preserve food. We know, we have connections with farmers. We can grow our own food. We can, we can share. And I think the key is that you bring groups of people together and have skills.
So leading on from that, Chris, who are these people who want to get involved? Who is it, these people who want to connect back to their food or love organics? Are there a particular group of people, or are you finding it's pretty broad nowadays?
I think it doesn't matter what neighbourhood, it doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter city or rural, there are people, I think it's an innate thing that when you get disconnected, you either, I'm sure there's some kind of like someone's identified 7 stages of like mourning the industrial society, of like going through, of like depression, anger, rage, hopelessness. And then I've really got to do something about this, or else I'm going to be sick, and I'm going to get sick. And so it feels like there's people coming out all over who won't go, I really want to eat well, to connect with natural systems, to, just get more involved with, myself as an animal, rather than a consumer, a commuter, an employee on that path. And I think there's a deep, sometimes it's like hard to put into words for people, but they feel it. They go, I need to connect. I really, really, really need to reconnect with, myself as actually a part of ecology. Yeah, or those I don't think they're any kind of type of people, but I think there's an awakening, and it's just every year it seems to be getting wider and wider, and you can see it in all the projects and the things that are going on out there that are just catering for people who want to reconnect with the ecology.
And I feel like I think about my family and my sisters. They aren't particularly strong foodies or into the environment necessarily, but as soon as they've had children, they're like, I want to make sure I know where my food's come from, and I want to make sure it's organic. And, it's really interesting to watch that journey as you talk about it. You get to different stages in your life probably, and you reflect on what you're doing and what you're eating.
And I think a major catalyst for it is a lot of people getting sick, and having all kinds of eating disorders, allergies, autoimmune things that if they haven't woken up themselves, it's their bodies have woken them up. And basically it's like, if I don't sort my food out, if I don't sort out what I'm putting in my body, I'm going to be sick, miserable, possibly dead. And I think that's bringing a lot of people to eating organic and being a whole lot more conscious about, food.
So what do we need to do to excite more people, Chris? Or is it that things are building anyway, and we just got to keep providing more opportunities or easier access, as you talked about earlier? Like how do we keep growing this? Or is it natural?
I think, if you look at the statistics, it's this, healthy food, avenues for people to connect and know more about their food is it's happening. It's sort of one of the fastest growing areas in food. So it's almost like we're riding a wave of it over the last, I think it started 15 or more years ago, and it's just getting bigger and bigger every year. So it's really about, I think, catering for it and providing opportunities for people to embrace it. I think a lot of it's not about being, I think it can, if it gets too self-righteous and, you're already seeing, things like foodie becoming, you could almost equate it with hipster and having a real negative. So making it really accessible and not sort of up itself is key. So, just wide and welcoming. Otherwise, you'll get, the corporate pretenders will go, all right, there's an avenue, let's create a brand and avenues where we can, scoop this pool and do it in the way that they've done everything else.
I love that perspective. So can we go back to CERES, Chris?
Yep.
Can you just give us some statistics on the amount of people you serve, farmers, how many farmers you support, that sort of stuff? It'd be really great just to hear from your example, and then I want to lead that on to where people can go if they don't happen to live in Melbourne and be a part of your great service.
Yeah. So we serve we have about 2,500 regular customers, and we're roughly 1,000 a week. And so most people order fortnightly from us. We go all over Melbourne. We have these things called food hosts. So you can get food delivered to your door like a normal, like a regular delivery service. But what we really love is delivering to, and it's basically someone's veranda. It might be someone's business. It might be a community centre where you can go and pick up your groceries. And there might be 10 families or so connected to that food host, and you can choose wherever that food host. And we've got 73 or 74 of those around Melbourne. So there's lots around. And that's a place where, we offer free delivery, because we think when people cooperate and use sort of, existing community resources, something simple like a veranda, it's a really nice way to kick off that sort of community building approach that I was talking about earlier. So 70 of those, we support over 100 small farmers and grocery makers. So we do, the farmer that brings us 3 or 4 bins of produce, and right down to someone who, on their way to work, drops off, a few boxes of lemons, from their organic, lemon orchard that they just do part-time. And we really love supporting someone who's just getting into farming and who's like going, okay, I've only got a few, I've only got a box every other week. We, we'll support that person as much as we'll support the person who brings us a truckload of stuff, because it's the number and diversity of farmers that makes this whole system work. If things are just down to a few big farmers, we'll get ourselves into trouble. And so whenever, we see a new person coming on the scene and they're just starting off, we really, really love engaging with them and going, yeah, we'll buy your stuff.
That's great. I love that.
We'll help you. And it's also just quite, it's the relationships. So there's a real, a joy in having the connections with, a whole diverse group of different people who are doing or growing or making things and being part of their, their journey to growing a business. Even if it does stay small and it's just sort of a sideline, like, we've got people who just grow, like say feijoas or chestnuts, and we'll only see them through a season, which might be 6 to 10 weeks. But we do that every year, and it becomes a season and something to look forward to and celebrate, and we reconnect. And then we don't hear from them for another 9 months. So, but it's after you do that for 5 or 6 years, you just develop a real pattern. It's something to get excited about. It's just like, oh, we're going to see them again. We're going to have those feijoas or have those chestnuts again, and it's you're starting to create something.
I'm really passionate about supporting startup farmers. So from a CERES point of view, do you have like a product that you think, oh, wouldn't it be great if someone grew this? Is there a shout out to some entrepreneurial farmers out there?
We
grow this, you'll have it.
So we often it's like it's climate or regional specific. So we've got the chestnut grower that we were talking about before. Feijoas have become a real popular thing that we can't get enough of, and their climate is just perfect for growing it. They're already into tree crops, so we say grow those. Mm-hmm. And whereas someone else might be, we're looking for heritage, kind of crazy pumpkins that we couldn't get hold of. That someone was just like, oh, that's right up my alley. So often it's like, it will be the person and what their land's capable of that we talk to, because there's lots of stuff that's not out there, Pomegranates. Can't get enough pomegranates right now. That's something that's really, I think would go really well. So there's always something, and there's always something new that's sort of coming on, going, yeah, wow, yeah, we could grow. Not so long ago, it was broccoli. It was bok choy, and it was all these things that if you think about them now, where they're just such almost a commodity. It's like, actually, they were a brand new thing, a while ago. Kale, oh my God, 5 years ago, I couldn't sell 10 bunches of kale a week. And now, everyone knows the kale story.
That's great. I love that. If you are an aspiring farmer, go talk to CERES and stitch up the supply chain from the start. That's brilliant. That's really good. And just back on the 70 or 74
food hosts.
That's it.
Yeah,
they're volunteers. Is that right? That is
they're volunteers.
amazing. What's driving these people over there? Obviously, got something that's just making them so passionate about this.
So food hosts, and more. First, we just offered a discount, and we thought that would be the good thing. But actually, more and more people aren't interested in. That's not the bit that they're interested in. It's about wanting to make a contribution, and we haven't. Up until recently, we haven't really asked a lot of, more than just like, we'd love to use your front veranda and a little bit of your time. But more and more people are actually, they want to make a contribution, and they want to go, oh, look, I want to be involved. I want to make a difference. And that's the motivation. And we're trying now, this year is a big year for us to go, actually, how can we harness that and make a bigger impact in our communities and have our food hosts be the people who have time beyond, who want to go, okay, how can actually we draw in the community around you and build the sort of, the things that we're talking about, the groups who share food, who help skill each other up, who create those little, food buying communities, and that they're going to take us past the apocalypse.
I just think that's so good. I just love the idea that you can start businesses and then people just love it so much they want to help out. It's it must be such a good feeling for the CERES team, I guess, knowing that there's people just backing you all the way. It's brilliant.
Yeah, well, I think because CERES is what it is, as a not-for-profit, and just a place that's, we've after years of trying to explain it, we've sort of got down to, CERES is a place that helps people fall in love with the earth. And if you follow that through, when people are living by that and going, I feel that great love for the earth, you're actually, what aren't you prepared to do? And it's joyful. This sort of, that sort of work. It's just like, actually, love is a massive motivator. And so, it's, people just want to give to that.
Mm. So you probably fired up a lot of people, Chris, watching now or listening, but they probably live in Tamworth or Shepparton.
Yep.
And they're really frustrated that they can't be part of CERES.
Yep.
Are there other organisations like what you're doing across the country? And if not, if a town or your local area doesn't have one, what can people do to start their own? Is it possible?
Yeah. Well, it's been quite amazing in the last few years of places that are going, we'd love something like that happening in our town, and just doing it. Places like Beechworth Co-op. Places that have been doing it for years, like Grow Lightly in South Gippsland. These are like regional food hubs that have done it in their own way, whether it's a shop or a box scheme, and they, based in a small town, and if we had the success rate or the participation rate of those guys, we'd probably have, we'd have 500,000 households. Because small towns have embraced these, I think they're better suited for it, because also they have the access and everybody knows, there are producers close by. So, the transport is pretty close for someone farming on the edge of town, or even who's got a few, I've got a backyard, I've got an orchard, and it's big enough actually to supply this, a fair amount of fruit. And so bringing a whole bunch of people together who grow and local producers into a town, really, I've seen it really unite small towns and create really dynamic, food organisations that, they're extraordinary, really actually extraordinary. Much more, I feel they're much more connected than Melbourne-based organisation like us. And, I feel pretty connected, but those, I think, at scale really works. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like this isn't a new concept anymore. So there must be templates, processes, people all over the country that you can just Google, find their names, give them a call, and you can get it going.
That's right. Yeah. It's happening all over, and I think there are great examples and people to talk to, from towns of similar sizes to go, okay, how did they do it? And often it's a spare space. It's a few people, it's always half a dozen people bringing some growers together and pulling their friends in. And if they do it well, people follow. And often there's an economic thing too. It's just like, actually, you're bringing really good food at a good price together in my local community. Why? Well, actually, we don't actually have that option. I have to drive a long way to get that, and so they take off. They really take off.
Well, Chris, I've loved this. I appreciate your time. I hope people are fired up watching this and are going to start their own hubs across the country. Where can people go to find out more about CERES or sign up? They just Google CERES and they'll find it, CERES.
CERES, and we're and the food delivery business is called CERES Fair Food.
Okay, so make sure you get that right. Type that in properly. Chris, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time, and looking forward to just watching the journey of CERES and CERES Plus, as in everyone copying and pasting across the country your great work. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Sam. Great to talk to you.
Thanks for your attention. We hope you really enjoyed that interview. We are the Organic and Regenerative Investment Cooperative. We would love for you to sign up, become a member, follow us on all the social media accounts, connect with other like-minded people who want to see organic farming thrive across Australia. Please watch the other videos in our series as well, and share amongst your friends and family. But please do get in contact. We'd love to chat.